Coming up tonight on Game All Nite, Alex Goldsmith joins me and tells me about an awesome trip to find himself out in the world, and I pretty much stay at home.
Welcome to Game All Night.
Well, hello and welcome to another Game All Night. Today I am joined by Alex from GreyFox Games and Dukes of Dice. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite fine. It's never a bad day when it's been in the mid 70s and sunny here in St. Louis after a bunch of rain. I got water, I got games, I got all I need.
Awesome. So thanks for coming on the show. You and I have actually met twice now, and we have a little history, especially if you're fans of Dukes of Dice. I am the infamous not Jamie Kagi from from the Flip Ships demo at Gen Con last year. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but Jamie hooked us up with some passes, and you kind of called me out.
Well, and I was kind of calling myself out too in the same way. For background, for folks who don't know the story, I was, before I got hired with GreyFox, demoing games for Renegade Games, and demoing one of my favorite games, my actual favorite game of last year, Flip Ships. Fantastic game by Kane Klenko, released by Renegade, and there were a couple folks who came up, and I didn't recognize the name Jamie Kagi, which I think for folks who know board game media would be shocking and appalling, but I didn't recognize it. And it was you and your buddy who was wearing another person, a badge from another person with Secret Cabal. And I was like, okay, well, Jamie, here's how you play. And then you were like, oh no, I'm not Jamie. I'm not Jamie. And I was like, okay, sure, great. And I mentioned it on the podcast.
Yeah, I love it on the podcast because you're like, I think I was being punked, but I'm not sure. And it was,
yeah.
It was great. That guy had to reach out, and I'm like, no, I punked. I think I actually punked Gil Hova unintentionally. But he was tired and exhausted, like I think he always is. But that was kind of funny. I can't wait to get him on the show. It's going to be strange. And then we got to hang out.
Kind of
Yeah. And we got to hang out a little at PAX U this past year. I didn't get to play a game with you, unfortunately. Time was a little, what's life like at these cons? Because now you kind of went from like helping to running all in the same year. So what's the difference in the two?
It's strange, right? Because when I was helping out with Renegade, you show up from a certain period of time. Here's your shirt. Here's your game.
Right.
And it's tiring for volunteers who are at these cons, or staffers even, do yeoman's work in terms of demoing these games. I mean, you are on your feet for hours at a time, interacting with people, putting your best foot
Right.
forward, smiling, making sure people are having fun, making sure people are learning the games. Now you add running it to the mix. It's not just a set shift. It's not just, in my case, I was doing 4-hour shifts for
Right.
Renegade. Now
Pretty
it's
standard.
the entire day of the con. Plus, on top of that, it's also doing the booth layout and making sure the right signage is available, and making sure that that everything comes together well, and also make sure you're managing volunteer schedules. And oh, hey, you're needed to demo Harvest Dice on camera. Go ahead and go do that. So it's a different experience, and there's a lot of factors that go on, and especially for some of these bigger companies.
Right.
Nothing but admiration for folks who have to put together those crews, because that is a task in and of itself.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because last year I actually volunteered for Capstone, because it was local, and I'm like, hey, I'll go help out. And not that it's grueling, but, it's a lot of time on your feet, and, saying the same, explaining the same game time and time again is, I don't want to say challenging, but it definitely tries your patience, and, it can be difficult if you're not prepared for that, so...
What's nice about Flip Ships was, because of the nature of that game, because it's a dexterity game,
Right.
there was enough variety in seeing what people would do. Oh, hey, someone hit the mothership, or this 7-year-old came up and nailed 3 ships in 2 shots. wow, like you get those kinds of cool moments. I can imagine for different games where maybe it's either more set or less variety to it, it can be a little more grueling for sure.
Absolutely, and it's but it's also a challenge if you don't like the game as much. I fortunately loved everything I got to demo, so it's like fine. But if you and I were to switch places, right, and you had to demo the big heavy Euros that I was doing, I don't think you'd like it quite as much. I don't think that's kind of your bag, and that's fine. But it pays to love the product you have, right?
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Makes it a lot easier.
What's life like now compared to what it was, well, a little over a year ago, because you were just getting back this time last year?
It's interesting, and I won't get too much into the trip itself, but speaking more broadly on it, I was a TV news reporter, for folks who don't know, for about 6 years. I was started off in Lansing, Michigan, and an NBC affiliate there, and then I went to Albuquerque at a CBS and Fox affiliate there, and it was a passion when I got into the industry.
Wow.
And I just got burned out. I mean, broadcasting was something I'd wanted to do since I was 5 years old. That's how long held of a passion that thing was. And letting go of that when I did, I knew it was the right move. But it meant a lot of things happening at once. A few months before my contract expired at the TV station, broke up with a long-term girlfriend, moved out of the apartment that I was in Albuquerque, put all my stuff in storage, left the country for a good chunk of time, left my job. So it was quite literally hitting a reset button on life for me.
Yeah.
And in the months coming back from that, there wasn't this immediate, okay, I'm just going to work in the board game industry, no problem. I was considering political consulting. I was considering a broader marketing job, going back to school, any number of those kinds of things, came up. But I think it got to a point where I had avoided going into the hobby on the business side. One, because I didn't know if I'd be able to find a job.
Right.
And two, I didn't know if I could still keep up this thing that I love so much, if that would persist, if it was the thing I also did for work. And luckily enough, GreyFox was willing to take a chance on me. And beyond that, GreyFox has been a fantastic fit since coming here to St. Louis. And St. Louis has been a fantastic fit. It's a city that surprised me in a lot of ways. The food is much better than I expected. Awesome. It's been lovely. Yeah, it's been, there's a lot of things that have changed. Moving from Albuquerque was tough. I don't have that same that Dukes of Dice game night that goes from 6 to midnight in Albuquerque. I don't have that going on over at Empire Board Game Library. I play with Jamie Stegmeyer, who you had on this show as well. I don't know. By the time this releases, a little bit more than a while. So some things have changed, but there are still some wonderful things that I've discovered out here in St. Louis too. And being part of the industry has opened my eyes in a lot of ways. But I would not take that decision back. It's been really cool.
What I find is pretty awesome about that whole story is that there is one constant through the whole thing and one thread that tied it all together, and it comes back to board games, the hobby, and like the people inside it. And that seemed to be kind of an anchor for you during the whole process. Do you think I'm exaggerating that, or do you think that's accurate?
No, I think it's dead accurate. And again, we'll talk about it more with the trip, but even during the trip, I brought one game with me. I brought Happy Salmon with me. That was the only game I brought. But even then, on that trip, games ended up being a sort of anchor. Wow. The podcast was an anchor in its own way. I mean, it's a weekly show that we've been doing for 3.5 years. It's now bi-weekly, but coming back and having that to focus on and that to prep for and that to stay hooked into, that community, yeah, absolutely. As I was going through that transition, that was the one constant for sure.
Right. And I think it's important because, that you came back to the show and that you guys made it bi-weekly. I mean, I get the rigors of doing a weekly schedule is a little tough, especially when you're trying to stay on top of things. It can be a little difficult, but I love that you guys were able to make it work, because as good as the extra hosts were that came in and filled in while you were out, you and Sean just have this banter, and you're just different enough that it makes for a really fun listen. And, you know, as much as my podcast stream rotates, you guys are always at the top of the list whenever a new show comes out. So it works.
Well, that's tremendous to hear. Because I'll be honest with you, when we first started that podcast, my big concern was, how are we going to be different? What's going to make us unique? What's going to set us apart?
Right.
It was Sean coming to me and saying, hey, you want to do a podcast? You're in TV news. You like board games. I like board games. Let's do a show. And there wasn't a whole lot of thought into what's going to set us apart, what's going to make us unique, what's going to be the thing that has people want to listen. We tried something early on. We did a game court segment where we battled over two different opinions of the game. We did a board game news segment. Ooh, revolutionary. I was in the news at the time. And what we found out, which was strange, but was a cool thing for me, was that it wasn't anything unique with the show itself, except for the dynamic between the two of us. There was just something about that dynamic that has clicked and has continued to click. And it's been nice to see. And it was unexpected in a lot of ways. It wasn't the thing I expected to set us apart. And so far, so good, I guess.
Yeah, I think, you know, that you can't underestimate the chemistry of the people on the show. And I've had the pleasure of having a lot of different podcasters on, and I think that the successful shows are the ones that have a great chemistry between people. And then you've also done some of your, I guess they're almost private segments now, with the holding court segments, where you've been able to do some just kind of one-on-one interviews to kind of maybe keep your TV creds up and keep those chops alive, right?
Yeah, those are great. Those are one-on-one interviews with a variety of board game guests. They're sporadic. We've tried to have them be once a month, but it hasn't always come out that way. But it's anywhere from Tom Vassell to Chris Cluey, former punter for the Minnesota Vikings.
That was great.
Suzanne Sheldon, of course, from the Dice Tower, one of my favorite guests. We've had Jamie Stegmeyer. Now, this was slightly controversial within the Duchy, but I did have Josh Lobkowitz from GreyFox Games to kind of get the game development perspective in on things. But we've had Kane Klenko, we've had game artists, and we've got a couple in the pipeline that I'm pretty excited about that may or may not be out by the time you're seeing this. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
On the show, you are very, I guess the best word to say is careful with, you know, having a relationship with GreyFox, who now pays for you. At the same time, it feels like it's almost apologetic. Okay.
I'm coming from a background where all conflicts of interest in any form or fashion, you want to do your best to avoid even the appearance of.
Right.
And frankly, without our fans, we don't have a show. I mean, we center so much of our show around our fan base. We name our episodes that way. We get people contributing that way. I mean, that is another core to kind of what makes us us. Right. And I haven't had too much backlash from that. In fact, oddly enough, I think more of the backlash has been people saying, hey, you're a little too apologetic about this. Like, it's okay. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But there's always, there's these moments where the commercial side of the industry crosses with the hobby, the passion side of the industry, right?
Right.
Some of these shows have sponsors. And in my capacity at GreyFox, I've had the privilege of helping sponsor a number of shows and help with the creative process there and help ensure that those folks can kind of do what they do in the hobby. And, you know, I don't want our show to become the one-stop hub for all news GreyFox games, quality games.
Right.
Like, you don't want it to turn into an infomercial. And at the same time, whenever possible, I feel like having someone on that side of the industry can be an interesting perspective. Yeah. It puts us in an awkward position. Deception, Murder in Hong Kong was one of Sean's favorite games for a good chunk of time, and talked about it quite a bit on the show, well before GreyFox was ever in the conversation. Now there's some question as to how much does he talk about that? I'm certainly not going to talk about that on the show. The joking way we've kind of referred to it is monochromatic wolf play experience is the way to refer to GreyFox. And I don't know. It's a line that we're still trying to figure out. Even a few months into this now, we haven't 100% figured out what the best way of doing this is. But we're doing our best. We do our best to be transparent and honest, whether it be with where we got a review copy or who's getting paid by who. So I think it's all part of that equation. And I don't know if I need to be less apologetic and more brash and bold. Like I'm in the industry, and if you don't like it, deal with it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you can't discount the fact that, you know, this is this is what you do 40, 50 hours a week now, and you now have this fountain of information that's relevant to what you do. Your life can't help but bleed into a show that's based on personality, right? So it's going to happen. But, I don't know. I think I'm okay with it as one listener. So you have my approval to do whatever you want,
Well, that's all I needed. We were going to just stop doing it altogether. I was going to be off the show, but now with your vote of confidence,
all right.
Sir.
Well, good.
Full speed ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and I own Champions of Midgard. You don't need to sell it to me again. I'm fine. So enough said. All right.
Sure.
Well, I think this is a great time. Let's take a quick pause for a break, and then we're going to be right back. This week's media creator shout out goes out to 5 Games for Doomsday. Join Ben Maddox as he asks a different guest each show what 5 games they want to take when the apocalypse comes. Be sure to check out this unique take on interviewing wherever you get your friendly podcast. All right, welcome back. I'm still here. I haven't scared away Alex yet at all.
Not going to happen.
We asked the tough questions here, right? How can you dare split your time between a professional pursuit and a personal one? But let's go into the personal one, because you kind of did. You mentioned it earlier. You did a full life reset practically, and you just kind of said, you went walkabout, but your walkabout went clear around the globe. And ended up back here roughly this time last year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a year since your trip. We know the impetus behind the trip, so what was the plan going into it?
The plan was to have not a huge plan, if that makes any sense. To have the broad outlines of exploring the world laid out, but not anything set in stone. I knew I wanted to travel.
Okay.
And for TV news, it doesn't allow for that a lot. You have 4 months out of 12 when you're a TV news reporter that are off limits, because those are sweeps months. So February, May, July, November, no vacation allowed. And even when you could take vacation, even when you could take vacation, it had to be assuming someone else could fill your spot. And when you can take vacation, it has to be for a certain amount of time, right? You can't go for 3 weeks straight. You might not even have that much vacation anyway. So this was an opportunity in between jobs, in between kind of knowing where I was and not knowing where I was going, to take a trip, to just leave. And so it ultimately ended up being 13 countries. But the initial plan in doing that, I only booked flights from the US to Sweden, from Denmark to Bangkok, from Bali to Australia, Australia to New Zealand back to the US. In between there was a lot of other stuff going on. This was a span of about 4 months. But that was the broad strokes of, I knew I was landing in Bangkok in mid-February, and I knew I needed to be in Bali to get to Australia by early April. And so there was some amount of that time on the ends of the trip that was more planned. But in the middle, especially the Southeast Asia section, go as you'd like. Go as you'd like. Adventure, explore, see what you want to do.
It's one of those things I'm sure that a lot of our viewers, and myself included, dream of being able to do. I got the privilege to go to Hawaii a few years ago, and even that trip was daunting. I can't imagine just, going clear around with very little plan. So was there any part of this trip where you kind of went, oh crap, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. Did you have any of those?
One moment specifically, maybe two, but one that was most acute, and it was shortly after I've landed in Bangkok. I've taken a taxi, and I'm trying to find Khao San Road, which is the backpackers road. I have a hostel that I've already booked near there. I booked the first 3 weeks of hostel accommodations and nothing else, whether it be trains, flights, whatever, to different countries or different parts of Thailand. I knew I was going to be in Bangkok for a few days. That was all I knew at that point. And I get there in the middle of the day, and I'm in a taxi. I don't speak much of the language. I've been told that when you're in taxis, make sure they turn on the meter. This guy, not known to me, had turned on the meter, but I was like, meter per crop, meter per, like asking him to turn on the meter anyway, because I was just that frazzled. I didn't know what was going on. And then I get to Khaosan Road, and there's people hawking all sorts of stuff. There's a fortune teller, a proclaimed fortune teller I run into who says, where are you from, my friend? And I said, I'm from the U.S. Oh, I have many friends in the U.S. We're in the U.S. I'm from New Mexico. Oh, I have many friends in New Mexico. Even people in the U.S., there are plenty who don't know New Mexico as a state.
Right.
And then he offered to read my fortune. I said, no, I'm good. And so it's hot, and my backpack, and that's all I have. By the way, when I'm doing this trip, it's just me and this backpack, this red backpack. Yeah, that's all I'm packed into. That's all I lived out of that thing for 3.5 months. And I was there on Khaosan Road, and I had this moment of, what on earth am I doing? I was a TV news guy. I had a stable situation, and I'm here without a plan, without anything, for until at least mid-April, right? At least until mid-April. I don't know what this is going to look like or what this is going to be, but man, oh man, this could be interesting. And then I got to the hostel, and I started talking to people and meeting people, and it all settled down, and you start learning about places, and you meet up with people, and you make friends, and it's amazing how even though you're traveling solo in those situations,
right,
you're not traveling alone. And it was crazy how that switch flipped, and met so many cool people on that trip, had so many unbelievable experiences, went to Myanmar on a whim, went to Vietnam, was in Cambodia, saw Siem Reap, was in Laos, Malaysia, down in Bali, Singapore. I mean, all over that region. And I felt lost, certainly in that moment, and to a lesser degree at other points in that trip.
Right.
But would not take it back for the world. That was such an unbelievable experience. And if anyone's even thinking about doing it and can maybe make it work, I'd highly recommend it. It's amazing.
It sounds like it's they talk about like the culture clash and the fact that you're going to some place that's so completely different that it's just disorienting beyond words. Is that kind of when you kind of got off the plane and you kind of plunked down and it's like, oh, this is the same, and then all of a sudden you step a couple steps more and you're like, oh no, this is completely different now.
It's certainly with the language and right. I mean, it was just, it was everything. It was everything all at once. It was the smells, the sights, the sounds, the feel. Before that, I'd been in Sweden, Norway, Denmark with my dad and my brother. And that was obviously a different climate. So you're going from cold to hot. You're going from this situation where anyone you're going to be talking to probably speaks at least some of the language to, right, I'm here in Thailand. And once you're in the hostel settings, you feel, I guess, a little bit more comfortable in that you're meeting up with folks who also speak the language, who might also be on the same journey. I think within a few hours of being in Bangkok, I met someone who had a similar experience. Oh yeah, I quit my job and I'm traveling here now, and isn't this cool? And wow. And then I became that person for other people later on in the trip, that person who was excited and talking about the possibilities and, oh, you need to go here and you need to go there. And so you go from this person who's totally lost to almost being, someone to help guide people. And that transition that doesn't take very long to happen, but it was pretty cool. So that was probably the moment of doubt. When did it kind of click and do the opposite? When did it go into this is the best, or this is the biggest part of the adventure is right now? When did that happen? There were so many highs on that trip and so many big moments and moments of wow. The one that caught me by surprise was in Myanmar. It was a country I wasn't planning on visiting before I went on my trip. Sure. And it's one I ended up going to. And this is a place that had been closed off to tourism until a few years ago. And the sights, the people are so friendly. They're all greeting you. Mingalaba is the way you say it. It's gorgeous, and it's not completely overrun by tourism. And I'm forgetting this site right now because I'm so kind of lost in that trip. What is it? Oh, Bagan, of course. Bagan is this field of thousands of temples spread out over over a giant area.
Right.
There's several towns that connect into it, and the sunrise is there. I'm not an early riser. I don't wake up early. It's not my jam. But I would wake up at 5:30 a.m. on this trip just to go see the sunrises of this particular place, Bagan, because they have hot air balloons taking flight. You have temples, this sort of forest desert mix out beyond, and it's peaceful and beautiful, and met some wonderful people, including a young woman from Canada who I traveled with for a couple of weeks after that through Myanmar and Thailand and Malaysia and Singapore. And that was the place where this was totally not on my radar. This was totally not a place that I was thinking about. And I'm here, and it's amazing. And I don't know when I'll ever be back, but I'm happy to be here now, and I'm very much in the moment. That was definitely one of the spots for that. So the start of the trip was Sweden, Norway, Denmark, which was with my dad and my brother, staying in ice hotels and experience and up in the Arctic Circle and very, very cold. And then it goes to Southeast Asia, and then Southeast Asia into Australia and New Zealand.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
So
I haven't been to Europe. I'd like to go.
So these places, I mean, well, chances are you'll get there eventually, right? I mean, Europe's easy to hit, but all these other ones, not so much. They're a little off the beaten path. Like, did you get to see the Northern Lights at all?
I saw a little flicker of Northern Lights in northern Norway, and I got a picture of it, and the picture looks cool, but then I see other pictures of full-on Northern Lights, and I'm like, I definitely, that has not been checked off the list yet. I need to see that full-on light show. And they just started direct flights from here to Iceland, from St. Louis to Iceland. That might be a thing. I don't know. Once we get to that season.
I think we need to do maybe a board game convention in an ice hotel. I think we could totally make that happen. I think that could.
Interesting.
I think we could do
and
that.
You play Ice Cool and other ice-themed games?
Well, the only problem is I don't think it's going to be the warmest there, and I don't know if I want to flick anything when it's that cold, because I have a feeling my finger might fly off.
You just do a mitten. You just do your best in there.
Mitten flick.
Yeah, why not?
So you did all this trip, and you come back, and you end up in Albuquerque again, right? Because you end up staying with your parents and things like that. How did St. Louis present itself as like, oh, I'm going to go from being in the southwest corner, enjoying my churros and my green chili every day, to the middle of the country where they have awesome barbecue, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But it's definitely a different ball of wax. What made you make that jump?
So I've lived a bunch of places in my life. I mean, I was born in New York. I grew up in Orlando, moved to San Diego when I was 9, went to college in LA, first job in Michigan, summer internships in a bunch of places. So I've been in a variety of spots.
Right.
I'm not averse to being a bit of a nomad. St. Louis was the pick, if only because that's where I could get a full-time job in this hobby. GreyFox Games needed someone on their marketing side of things, and for a few other functions, helping out with conventions, helping out with the website. And they're in St. Louis, and they wanted someone in St. Louis. And I said, hey, I am perfectly willing to pick up and go check it out. So I did. I hadn't been to St. Louis before applying to the job. I drove through here once on kind of another little mini adventure I went on before Gen Con. But not a place I was familiar with. And as mentioned, pleasantly surprised by it. Much better than you'd expect food. I live downtown right near Cardinals baseball and Blues hockey, which has been pretty nice. It's been a while since I've been in a city that's had major league sports, and I'm a big hockey fan myself, so that's been nice. So it's been a pleasant surprise. But it certainly, if you were to ask me in New Mexico, all right, where do you want to go? Where do you want to look for a job? St. Louis would not have come up. It wouldn't have been a city that I would have picked that way. But I'm here because this is where the job is, and I'm happy to be here. It's actually proven to be a good fit.
Awesome. Well, I mean, it seems to agree with you. You seem very happy. And it's definitely something fun. But I think that we need to pause and play a quick game, and I have something different in store for you than my previous guest. So we'll see how this one goes over. All right. So we'll be right back. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the show. Real quick, I just wanted to take a moment to let you know a few things about us. Number one is we have a Pod Pledge page. Now on there you can donate any amount, monthly, weekly, daily, whatever, and any of that goes directly to support the show, build the sets, better equipment, and all those things. I'm not trying to get rich, I'm not trying to quit my day job, just anything helps. Number two is please check out our social media. If you're not following us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, please do so. We definitely interact with our people a lot on there because we want you guys to be part of this show. Also, be sure to subscribe to YouTube. You know that little red button down there? Make sure you're clicking that and also do the bell icon so that you can get notified whenever we post a video. Once, twice, maybe 3 times a week. Lastly, please be sure to tell your friends. Whether you retweet something, whether you go out and you tell them about the channel, show them a show, anything you can do to get the word out, we would greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I'm now going to return you to your regularly scheduled program. Operators are standing by. So, welcome back. It's now time for Games with Guests. And tonight, I came up with something a little special for Alex. I think if you're a fan of the show, I think it's safe to say that he does not share the same game taste as his co-host does. So what I did, or had my producer/wife do, was to email Sean Ramirez from the show a list of games and ask him to rank them. And then it's up to us each to decide how he would rank the games. So what I did was we split the list in half. You have half, I have half. And we each have, like, I have cards. I didn't have time to send you cards. I apologize. We did this kind of off the cuff this week. And basically it's going to go like this. I'm going to tell you the first game. And that's going to be the seed game. Kind of borrowing this a little from This Game is Broken. If you don't listen, you should. It's hysterical. And then the second game, you have to say whether it's higher or lower than the first game.
I'm ready. I'm game. I know Sean pretty well, so I think I'm going to be pretty good at this one.
All right. So, yeah, we'll see. I have no idea. So I'll ask first just so you can see how this is going to flow. My seed was Suburbia. So that's the first game that he gave me. And basically, he said the app killed the game in real life. And I get that. There's a little bit of bookkeeping in that one. You know, you got to watch your bars and your income and things like that. So I get that. And then we asked him, did he like Merlin? Did he like that more or less than Suburbia?
He liked that thing more than Suburbia.
He did, in fact. Not by much, but he has been underwhelmed by it. And it's not his favorite Feld. It's in the lower end, but he still liked it slightly better than Suburbia. So interesting there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, if you listen to Ben Maddox's episode, I think we both trash a Feld each, actually. So as much as I love Feld, he's not 100% for me. All right, so Alex, you're good with one.
I'm asking you away. All right.
Yes.
So the seed I have is for Puerto Rico. And he says it's Puerto Rico. I've played several times, but not one I've had a chance to develop an appreciation for. So that is Puerto Rico. Where does he rank Yedo? Is it higher or is it lower?
Ooh, that's tough. Is Yedo higher or lower than Puerto Rico? I don't think Sean's played out Puerto Rico yet. I think it still sits up there. So I'm going to say he ranks Yedo lower than Puerto Rico.
You are correct.
Okay.
His comment on that one, can I show you on a doll where this game hurt me? Even the nice one.
Yeah. It can be a little brutal to your planning when people start to mess with the characters in that game, for sure. All right.
Yep.
Excellent. So we're both on. We both know our man right here. All right. So Merlin, coming back in with that one. And does he like Le Havre more or less than Merlin?
Easy. He likes Le Havre way more than he likes Merlin.
He absolutely does. In fact, I believe it's Sean's favorite Uwe is what he said on here. And I totally get that. And I agree. Good man.
Good man indeed. All right, next one. So we're at Yedo.
Right.
Does he like Bruges better
Ooh.
or worse than that game?
Oh, I think he definitely likes it better because I think he likes the multi-use cards and the different take on a Feld.
Okay. You are dead correct. Yeah, he says mid-tier Feld for me. Need to play it with the expansion. But if it's a Feld, it's got a good shot of being like better than something else on this list. It's not a guarantee. If Aquasphere was on here, and I don't know if it is, I can't see in the future. But if Aquasphere was on this, that wouldn't be a safe bet. Otherwise, you're pretty safe betting Feld.
I might agree with him with Aquasphere. It felt, I wanted to like it. It just didn't work.
I disagree with both of you, heartily. Anything.
And that's why you're a great co-host, because we absolutely need people who don't yes men. All right. So we have Le Havre as our seed. And does he like Rococo more or less than Le Havre?
He likes Rococo, but he doesn't like it at the level of Le Havre. It's lower.
I think you're right. But he loves making pretty dresses. So
Yes.
I like making blue coats. I don't know. It's the Tory in me, right? Tory?
Interesting. All right. We're going from Bruges to Scythe.
Scythe. Ooh. I mean, I gotta believe Scythe is higher. I gotta. I mean, I know in your case it would be, absolutely.
For both of us it would be. And this was one of the rare games that Sean and I have agreed on. It has won the Dutchy Boxcars Award. We both gave it a 6 out of 6. Yeah. Yes, he is on board with Scythe. Scythe is absolutely higher on his list.
And that was before you knew Jamie, so that's completely fair. And just to be honest with you, like I just went through my wall of games and picked a ton of games for him to select. I didn't choose any from episodes or anything, so this list is very random. And I crossover because I want to be able to talk about them. So,
nice.
All right.
Nice.
So moving on. So Rococo's the seed. All right. He likes making pretty dresses, but does he like building the Cathedral of Notre Dame more or less than Rococo?
Oh, always bet on Feld. He likes it better. He likes Notre Dame. He likes it better, but I think it's closer than I'd like it to be. But he likes it better.
Oh, it's our first miss. Good.
No!
It's literally like a one flip in the list. It's just one flip. But it is the second meanest Feld.
Oh.
And yeah.
Brutal.
So.
Brutal.
Oops.
At least it's a close one.
It was. I mean, that was like, that's really close. I don't know.
That was a toughie. That was a toughie.
It is.
We'll see if this one's a toughie. I don't. We'll see. Yokohama.
I'm gonna say I think he likes Yokohama better.
No. You, sir, have fallen flat as well. It is lower on the list, and not just by one. It's lower by a good chunk. He still likes the game a good amount.
Right.
He still likes the game. And he says TMG is really good at knowing which games to deluxify, was sort of his little comment with that one. So there you go.
Absolutely. Oh, I thought I remember him raving about that.
He liked it a lot. I don't know if it got to a 6, though. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
In any case. Yep.
All right. Just so for those of you keeping score at home, we're kind of in between right now. I have 4 correct out of 5, and Alex has 3 correct out of 4. So we'll see where we're at. Probably should have waited till I did this to give the score, but I sound so much better right now. I don't have faith in that lasting right now. Does he like Catan more or less than Notre Dame?
Less.
That was any version. Yeah, much less. In fact, I think it was the less, but it's also the game he's played the most out of anything in this entire list. So, or any board game period. So interesting. Yeah. See, that's why I like the Star Trek one. Have you tried that?
I haven't tried the Star Trek one, and I'm pretty sure he owns it. That would be the one I would think he'd like most.
Yeah, it's fun, and you get to build little enterprises. It's you can't go wrong with that, right? All right.
Next one for you, good sir, if you're prepared, is Orleans versus Yokohama.
See, now you have me second guessing because I thought he loved it, but I think he loves. I think Orleans was very, very highly rated. So I'm going to say Orleans is definitely higher rated than Yokohama.
It is. It is indeed. Knew I was going to love this when I read the rule book. You were correct.
I love the bumping and the picking and the choices. It's so good, so good. All right, so we're still in softballs here. Lignum, better or worse than Catan? I hope for Clay's sake at Capstone, it's better.
I can't even say it, I can't say it fast enough. Better for him than Catan, for sure.
Absolutely, and he loves the future planning. It seems that and Capstone rocks. So,
yep, there you go.
Absolutely.
All right. Orleans versus Caverna.
Oh man, I'm gonna go with less. He likes Orleans
Caverna
more.
less than Orleans.
Yes.
You are correct. He says it's a mid-tier Uwe for him.
Yeah, and I would kind of agree because I think it's a little too open-ended for Sean's taste. I think he wants something that's gonna like beat him up and rack his brain, and I don't think Caverna quite does that.
I think for him, Le Havre just probably, if he had to pick between the two, Le Havre's going to come out anytime.
All right, last question for you, Alex.
All right.
Does he like viticulture more or less than lignum?
Okay, it's tricky, but if my memory of scores holds up correctly, this should be a given. Unless something has dramatically changed, viticulture is better for him, is higher on his list than lignum.
And I believe you'd be correct. And he's like, what I think of first when I think of a midweight worker placement. And if you just watched Jamie's episode, which as the day we're recording is like releasing as we speak, it's right. I completely agree. It's one of my all-time favorites. So
yeah, it's a fantastic game.
All right. So are you going to tie? Am I going to tie or am I going to blow it?
I don't know. We'll see. And I will tell you, just based on scores, this is a close one for him.
Okay.
All right?
Great.
Caverna and Last Will.
Ooh, that is tough because I think he likes the planning in Last Will, but I think he might go to the Uwe side. So I'm gonna say he likes Caverna better than Last Will.
We have a tie, good sir, because you are correct. He says decent worker placement, cool theme, but meh with Last Will. But 2 spots apart on his list between that and Caverna.
Wow, that's kind of surprising because I love Last Will. I like what it does and does some of the different things in the carts. The setup though is a pain, I have to say. It's kind of has that thing where you have to relearn the game and you have a ton of decks of cards and you have to reset it. Like Vladimir's he's a mean man. But I love the game. I love Brewster's Millions, the game. Like, I mean, come on. I want to mail. I want to mail a stamp to my friend that's worth $3 million just to play that game, right? So, nice. Well, that was a lot of fun. I mean, it's a tie. I'm happy with a tie. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the tape, but I'm pretty sure it's a tie. I'm not very good at keeping score. I have to admit.
It's a tie. Trust me, I'm a competitive person, good sir, and it was a tie.
All right. So I've come up with a new thing. So I'm known for my wall of meeples. So what I'm doing is I'm going to have these meeples made again, and we're going to have first place and second place meeples that I will send to guests. So since we share in our mutual victory in true Uwe Rosenberg fashion, I'll send you first place, and we'll get that in the mail as soon as the lovely guys at Broken Token get them back to me. I think that's it's going to be a little bit of fun, and you can kind of show it off to all your friends. And
I've got a spot on the shelf right here for it, next to the Broadcasting Awards. That's where that meeple's going.
So, Alex, thanks for being on the show. Where can people find you as yourself, you as GreyFox, and you as a Duke?
I am all over the place. I have so many Twitter accounts, it's not even funny. You can reach me at AlexG_human. You can reach me at GreyFox Games, at Dukes of Dice I also see. Those be the main ones. I mean, one of those will work. You send a message to one of those, I'm sure someone will respond.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to check Alex out where you can and enjoy your games when you game all night. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed our efforts at comedy and fun, please support us on Podpledge. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, don't forget to engage with us on Board Game Geek Guild 3134. You can also check us out on our website, GameAllNightShow.com. This show has been made possible through supporters like these. Angry Octopus.